Hi, this is Joyce Polino Crane. I am the news director at Westford Cat. I am here today with a master gardener. Her name is Ann Hobbs Morgan, and she is a volunteer at, help me here, Ann, the Massachusetts Master Gardener Association.
Perfect, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
And the reason why you're here, welcome, by the way. The reason why you're here is because you are bringing your special event to Westford Academy on September 23rd. I'm so excited. This is a regional event with big names in the gardening world, and we here at Westford are hosting it. So that makes it so much more special.
Exactly. It's called the 2017 Massachusetts Gardening Symposium. The theme of the symposium is inspiration for next year's garden, because come September 23rd, we're all starting to put our gardens to bed for the season. We've got hopefully some positive feedback from things that have been successful in our garden this year, and probably some things we're not so happy about. And we're about to kind of settle in for the winter and hopefully start rifling through those seed catalogs and looking at landscape designs and thinking about the changes and improvements we'd like to make for the coming year. So our hope is that this event will help to inform that thinking.
Definitely, and I think everybody needs inspiration when you can't see those bulbs, when you're planting those bulbs and you have no idea how they're going to look until the spring. You do need some visualization and some inspiration.
Absolutely.
Before we get into some of the details of the event and also some information about gardening itself, which you are so knowledgeable about, I just want to tell residents and others out beyond Westford how they would register for the September 23rd event.
Absolutely. So we do have online registration on our website, and I believe you're going to put up a slide with the URL because it is a little bit of a mouthful. But the URL is MASS, mastergardeners.org/2017-gardening symposium.
Well, that is a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, yeah.
But good for you for remembering it.
Yeah. Well, and you can also just do a search with your favorite search engine on Massachusetts Master Gardeners, and we also have an event on Facebook. So that's a shortcut kind of way to find it too.
And the fee is $90.
The fee is $90. It's an all-day event.
It's an all-day event.
It starts with registration at 8:30 in the morning. It runs through about 3:30 in the afternoon. So there are 4 speakers. We can talk about those a little bit later. And there is lunches served. We have a garden marketplace with wonderful, wonderful vendors selling very unique items. We have door prizes and raffles that have been donated to us. And we have a silent auction with some amazing items that, if time permits, I'd love to talk about.
Well, you have a little display right here.
I do.
And this is, we might as well talk about this real quickly right now.
So this is a favorite tool of Master Gardeners. It's not heavy. And it is called a spearhead spade.
And turn it this way.
Okay, so super. Turn a spearhead spade.
Hold it up a little bit.
And it was designed by a Massachusetts gardener. It's made in the USA. And what's unique about it is this sort of arrowhead shape down here. It is actually sharpened. So in our soil in Massachusetts, there's a lot of rocks. There's a lot of matted roots. If you're transplanting plants, you really need to get down underneath them, and the Master Gardeners love this. And it has been, one of these has been donated by the manufacturer to us for our silent auction.
That's beautiful. So what is a Master Gardener? How do you become one? And so what's your responsibility to the universe as a Master Gardener?
Well, let me start real briefly with a little bit of history. So the Master Gardener movement was really born in the early 1970s. The first organization was in Washington State, and it was founded by a group of university extension office folks who wanted a way to do a better job of getting best practices and information about gardening out to the public. and they didn't have the arms and legs and brains to do it on their own, so they created this organization. The Master Gardener movement in Massachusetts dates back to 1977. And we trace our history back to that, although there have been some evolutionary changes in the organization over the years. And right now we are independent. We're an independent organization. We're 100% run by volunteers, both from an administrative standpoint and also, you know, the feet on the street, the gardeners on the street. And our mission is really focused on 3 areas: outreach, gardening, which is the digging in the dirt, and perhaps most interestingly, the education component. And education is focused inwardly on our own master gardeners, because the science of gardening, the science of horticulture, is evolving so fast that we have a big commitment as gardeners to stay on top of trends. So we both do education for our own members, but also outward to the community. And I can, if you'd like, I can give you some examples of each of those 3 aspects of what we do.
Yeah, sure, go right ahead.
So on the outreach front, it's really 2 things. We do what's called Ask a Master Gardener tables, and they are very often at fairs, farmers markets, sometimes at plant sales, and it's basically a table where we'll have volunteer master gardeners that field random questions from attendees. If some people come in looking branches of trees saying, is this a weed or is it a tree, and what do I do with it? Or they'll come in with a photograph of an insect and say, is this a good bug or a bad bug? And if it's a bad bug, what do I do about it? So we have that. That's outreach.
That's wonderful. What a wonderful service to be able to go to the farmer's market
and
on a Tuesday afternoon or whenever
and get that kind of advice
and get some information.
And then we also started this year offering free soil pH testing, because your soil is really fundamental, no pun intended, to your garden. And if the soil's acidity, alkalinity is not right, is not conducive to what you're hoping to grow, you're not going to have success. So we offer that testing, and very often at the same types of events. So that's a new service. On the gardening front, and the digging in the dirt front, we work with children in children's gardens. We manage school gardens. We do a lot of work with historical properties, helping them to maintain their historical faithfulness to the landscape as it was planted originally. Just a whole range of properties that serve the public good. And in Middlesex, just by way of 2 examples in Middlesex County, and I think these are both fascinating and really breakthrough, we have a master gardener who works with the inmates and the staff at MCI Concord. And
that is fascinating.
And they have a 40,000 square foot vegetable garden that not only supplies the kitchen at MCI Concord, but another institution, several Veterans Administration facilities, and several food pantries. So we're very excited about that.
Just to put that in perspective, 40,000 square feet is the size of the Whole Foods in Westford and many other grocery stores around the region.
Right,
So
exactly.
that's huge.
Yep. And then we also have a garden that we maintain in conjunction with the Department of Veterans Affairs in Lowell, that is part of their program, their outpatient program to work with veterans and veterans' families, and it gives the staff a place that they can hold special work sessions, special counseling events, and also that the patients can bring their families and just have a beautiful natural respite from the unique pressures that they're under.
It's so healing to sit in a garden.
Absolutely.
I was with a group of girlfriends about a week and a half ago. I went down to Wellesley to what is the name of the horticultural?
It's the Massachusetts Horticultural Society, and the property is called Elm Bank.
It was lovely, and
gorgeous,
we sat in a small little gazebo and just chatted with surrounded by the plants and the flowers and all the different colors that popped out at us. It was just a wonderful experience.
And Mass Hort is an affiliate of our organization, and we conduct a lot of our programs on their property, in their buildings. We do a lot of volunteer work on that property. They're a really, really great partner.
Yes,
and we love it there too.
Oh, I can imagine. So to become a master gardener, how much education do you need?
Okay, so well, education, as I said, is an ongoing thing.
Yes.
But to be certified as a master gardener, we sponsor a 14-week program. It's actually 7 weeks in the spring, 7 weeks in the fall, and they're all-day sessions taught by, for the most part, college and university faculty, professors, who are cramming into our brains in a single day what they might be teaching an entire semester course to graduates who are majoring in horticultural professions. So there are all-day classes. There is homework. There is testing. There is also a required level of volunteering, supervised volunteering, so that people can actually start giving back in a way that is overseen by master gardeners who have already been certified. And then once you graduate, you go on, hopefully, to continue your involvement, expanding your involvement. We do pay very nominal dues, but we also have a requirement in terms of number of hours of volunteering every year. And since this program was started in 2004, we have trained 400 master gardeners, and last year, 2016, the master gardeners donated 15,000 hours of volunteer time in eastern Massachusetts.
That's remarkable. So incredibly
helping
giving.
to expand the capability that some of these locations have in very short supply, on their own.
So when they're volunteering, are they doing, I drive around town, many towns, but I cover Westford. So I'm driving around Westford and I see little islands of gardens here, there, and everywhere that someone has so lovingly planted. Is that part of what they're doing?
It may be. In fairness, a lot of garden clubs. There is. I'm actually president of my local garden club as well, so I'm a busy lady. But a lot of garden clubs will adopt some of the Mass Department of Transportation's visibility sites and do those, or do barrels and things like that around the town. We tend to focus on bigger properties for the most part. But certainly there are a lot of school gardens, a lot of community gardens that we lend a hand with.
So what town are you the president of the garden club?
I'm the president of the Evening Garden Club of West Roxbury, even though I live just over the line in Roslindale. So I'm in Boston.
I see. So that's interesting. So I have a million questions as I as I told you.
Go to our Ask a Master Gardener table at the next event in Westford.
Yeah, you should hang a shingle out. So my story is that once upon a time I had a house at the bottom of a cul-de-sac. It was at the bottom of a hill on a cul-de-sac in Andover. And so I was so naive. When we bought the house, the realtor said, "Oh, and the front garden has been landscaped into an English garden." What it really was the previous owners, the gentleman had been English, and he had designed an English garden, and they had demarcated it with stones. There was a lot of ledge on the property, which I later found out, but he had never planted any of it. When I started buying the plants to fulfill the plans, I started digging only to find
that there was ledge.
There was ledge everywhere.
Yeah.
So it was designed for a north-facing garden, but I just couldn't plant anything. I didn't have the muscle or the brawn to do it, which is I guess something else you were talking about managing the work.
Right. So one of the per our informal conversation earlier, there is definitely, as the boomer population becomes more and more significant in our society, there is a need to be able to accommodate the desire of all of these people who've been very active, down on the knees, diggers in the dirt, all of their lives, but perhaps now have downsized their home, are doing window boxes and planters rather than plantings in the ground, or are starting to have physical limitations. So there is a whole movement around how do you continue to support that from a gardening standpoint, including gardens that are, containerized, that are raised bed, don't have to be at the ground level. A lot of people do that if they have problems with lead in their soil or other soil contaminants, that they can't grow vegetables in their soil. So they build raised beds, they control the soil that's in there, and they're all set. But those raised beds can actually be table height for someone who is in a wheelchair, for someone who has back problems or any other physical limitations, so they can continue to garden. And you'll very often see that at senior centers, at community centers, that cater to an older population. So there are workarounds, so we can keep gardening.
No, it's funny when you mention this. I remember a few years ago, I moved to another part of town, and every day when I drove home, I would see a gentleman on a motor scooter in his side yard, and he had plants in pots in those 5-gallon containers. And I was so curious that one day in July I stopped and I engaged him in conversation, which wasn't, it was so, from his point of view, it was so strange.
Who is this woman and why is she talking to me?
But I saw a story, as a journalist, I saw a story. I knew there was a story there. It was instinctual. And so he did warm up to me, and he started telling me about his physical condition and why he was, in a motor scooter, and how he planted and what he was doing and how he was doing it. And I wrote this piece for the Boston Globe in the op-ed section about him. And the day that it came out, he messaged me and he said, I'd always wanted to, he'd been a teacher, a music teacher, and he said, I'd always wanted to teach others that it could be done, it can be done. And that was his message, and he finally had that vehicle to say it.
Good for him, and good for you to tell his story.
So gardening is so healing, and
it absolutely is healing. And then kind of getting back to what we were talking about before about Master Gardener training. So that's, the intensive. The Master Gardener training leading to certification is the intensive program. But that doesn't suit everybody. It doesn't suit people who are employed full-time. It doesn't suit many 40-somethings who are in the sandwich generation, taking care of their parents and taking care of their kids who are boomeranging home from college. You really have to make a commitment to go into the Master Gardener training, and it's not just a commitment to the educational component, but a longer-term commitment to keep up your education and to keep up your volunteering. But we also offer quite a few other programs. For instance, we have a telephone helpline where if you've got a problem, and it's sort of like the Ask a Master Gardener table, except one telephone. We've got that. And we can teach people a lot about their gardens if they send in photographs of their shriveled up hydrangeas or a photograph of an insect that they don't know if it's a good bug or a bad bug. We have a speakers bureau that we provide speakers on a wide range of topics. They're also on our website. We do about 50 speakers bureau engagements a year at garden clubs and libraries in the community. We have fact sheets on our website, a whole library of fact sheets on everything from how to compost to specific problems for specific types of plants. We have a program called Home Hort, which is kind of Master Gardener training light, and it is offered in the evening over 10 weeks. It's will be offered again next spring at the Bradley Estate in Canton. And it's perfect for someone who's working during the day or has commitments during the day but really wants to learn more.
Well, those are wonderful resources. But speaking of speakers, I want to point out these 2 books that you brought with you. They are by 2 of the 4 speakers that are coming on September 23rd to Westford. Do you want to tell us their names and what their specialties are?
So, as you said, Joyce, there are 4 speakers. And their focus is really on landscape design, plant selection, And bottom line, I think the common thread that runs through what all of them are going to be talking about is ways that gardeners can do more with less, that we can be more efficient and have more pleasure out of our garden, and less work. And the two gentlemen who wrote these two books, this is a man by the name of Thomas Rayner. Thomas is a landscape architect. He is based in the Washington, D.C. area. He has designed gardens for the U.S. Capitol, for the Martin Luther King Memorial, for the New York Botanical Gardens, as well as private properties. And his focus is on how do we learn more from nature, from the natural groupings that plants gravitate into in the wild. His book is called Planting in a Post-Wild World. And that if we can learn from that, you know, there are lessons to be taught that will make our lives easier. He talks about something called green mulch. And so that basically means that instead of, you know, burying our gardens in shredded leaves or other organic material, in shredded bark, etc., that basically the goal should be to plant our vegetation densely enough that it fills in all the spaces, and that if you need ground cover, that becomes a plant, plant life. So, you know, really interesting point of view on that, and he's going to be talking specifically about that at the symposium. The other gentleman, his name is David L. Culp. David is from Pennsylvania. Yep, this is his book here. And he has an award-winning property that has been featured on HGTV. He's written articles for Martha Stewart Living, for all of the horticultural magazines. And his focus is on layering. And what layering is a way to orchestrate how you plant so that you have something in bloom, something beautiful all year round. So as one plant goes through its cycle and starts to fade, something else is there to take its place. David is also a specialist and has achieved a great deal of notoriety in two particular plants that are spring bloomers. He has hybridized plants called brandywine hellebores. Hellebores are bloom typically around Easter time. They're really beautiful. They're one of those first flowers of spring that give you hope when the snow starts to fade.
Oh, we all need that.
Yeah, we all need that. And he's hybridized his own group of those plants. He also was just actually recognized by the Wall Street Journal as an expert in a plant called galanthus, which is the Latin for snowdrops. And snowdrops, he describes it as looking like 3 drops of milk on a stem, because they're white, and there are many different varieties of them. But they're typically an English plant, but they are also becoming very, very popular here. So he's very specialized in those.
Yeah,
he, however,
sound familiar.
yeah,
I think I've seen them.
They're very, again, it's something that pops. They're one of the first things to break through the minute the snow starts to melt. He's not actually going to be talking about landscape design, but he's going to be talking about plants and about some of the old tried and true varieties versus newer introductions versus what's coming. One of the things David does professionally, he's a vice president of a grower in Connecticut, Sunny Border Nurseries, and they do trial gardens. So he has the catbird seat. He has the visibility into what's next.
Oh, that's great.
And so he's going to talk about that, but sometimes newer is not necessarily better. So he's going to spend quite a bit of time at our symposium on that topic.
That sounds wonderful. And the other two speakers are Kathleen Gagan.
Yep.
And Janet Makunovich.
We'll forgive you for that one. That's a mouthful.
You.
Yeah, Kathleen is the owner of a company called Peony's Envy. They are online. She is out of New Jersey. She has a 7-acre trial garden, and basically it's a peony farm where she raises peonies.
My favorite flowers.
Just,
Love them.
Yeah. I was doing a little research the other day, and I found this quote. Peonies are quite old. There's some people believe they go back 4,000 years. And Marco Polo has been attributed a quote about peonies where he said, They are roses the size of cabbages. And of course, they're not
yes.
roses at all, but they
Right.
they do tend to look, some of the varieties look like roses. So Kathleen's going to talk with us at the symposium, and she's also going to be selling bare root peonies in our garden marketplace. So that's a great opportunity, because the fall is the time of year to plant them.
Great.
And then Janet Makunovich is a Midwesterner. She and her husband have been doing gardening education for 36 years, and she is also a award-winning author. And her focus is going to be on the art of fall cleanup. So who thought it could be art? You know, we always thought it was drudgery, right? Yeah.
Still
but,
do.
But you know, her message is that there are things that you can do now. By investing an hour's time now, you're going to save yourself 2 hours of work in the spring, and you're going
Good advice.
to set yourself up to have a much more pleasant visual experience over the fall and over the winter, because you've invested some time now. So she's going to give us some tips about doing that.
Lovely. And before we end, you brought 2 potted plants
Yes.
for us. One is this beautiful fern that is so fragrant.
Right,
I just
right.
love it. I can't stop smelling it.
And my entire cart smells like this, but this is called a Denstedia punctolobula, and that's the Latin. It is a hay-scented fern. Both of these are from my garden, and I'm going to be donating them to our silent auction, and we're actually
lovely.
gathering up plants now from a lot of master gardeners to sell at the silent auction. These are going to be my 2. I probably have a few more. And as you said, you know, one of the wonderful things about it is if you plant it along a path or something and you just brush past it, it sends off this wonderful new mown hay kind of fragrance. It likes the shade or dappled shade, and it expands. It, you know, very much spreads. I have a clump probably about this big.
And this one.
And then this one's very funky. So this one is called, and this, by the way, the fern, whoa, and there goes our shovel.
We knew that would happen.
Killed Joyce with the shovel. We knew that would happen. The fern is a native to New England. This plant is an exotic plant. It is native to Asia, and it's called Sinalesis palmata. And the reason that it's called that is that the leaves are palm-shaped. And what's interesting about it, it also likes the shade, it also clump forms, and when it comes up, people have called it like a Q-tip. Each one of these comes up looking like that white fuzzy tip on a Q-tip, cotton swab. And then it opens like an umbrella. So its common name is shredded umbrella plant.
And that's what they look like.
And well, then they'll put out the flowers.
Oh,
so when it comes up, you'll get these leaves that look like the palm of somebody's hand.
I see.
And these are babies, by the way. I have at least one in my garden that's about that big around, the leaf.
Lovely.
So it's amazing. The flowers are a little mundane, but the pollinators love them. So even though we as gardeners may kind of go meh, you know, the pollinators really love them.
You're doing right for nature.
Right for the pollinators, and they're really beautiful.
So Anne, we're out of time.
Okay.
Unfortunately, but I would like to thank you very, very much for coming up here and sharing your knowledge with us. There's nothing more wonderful than a garden, a beautiful garden, and you make it all possible, you and the other master gardeners. So
I hope to see you and many folks from Westford at the event, September 23rd.
And from around the region as well.
Absolutely,
September 23rd, starting at
8:30 registration. Yep.
8:30 registration.
But the registration does cut off a week in advance. So when you go to the website, you need to register by September 16th, because we have to order the lunches and do all of the logistics. So.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
For Westford Cat News, this is Joyce Polino Crane. Hope to see you around town.